Listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
If you're a veteran, our nation has created a wide range of benefits to thank you for your service. But it can be difficult to navigate the process of determining eligibility, filing claims, appealing decisions, and securing the benefits you've earned. Speak to your county veteran service officer or the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs State Service Office to see what's available to you and your family. These services are 100% free. So visit veterans.nebraska.gov today. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you wanna come and test us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music.
This is Mommy's jam.
Then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People Seating Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
In Nebraska, we show up when friends need help. We check in on our neighbors. That's why it's important to know the warning signs of suicide. If you have a friend or neighbor who's withdrawn, stressed, agitated, or talks about suicide, find out how you can help. Call, text, or chat 988 for 24/7 support. You have the power to save a life. Paid for by the University of Nebraska Public Policy Center. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Live from the heart of Lincoln, America, welcome to Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome in. Happy Sunday. Harrison Arns, the ones and twos as always. Come Sunday, and the Husker football is officially 1-0 to start the season. If you guys want to join in, we're going to be talking plenty college football. We'll lock in on Husker football as, again, the Huskers go 1-0 to start off the year in a game that I think was closer than most people anticipated. But again, with week 1, such that week 0, and we'll go through it with a lot of these scores that we saw over the week. And I know it's kind of DP's whole mantra. We just don't know. You just don't know as much as you think you might, especially in a game of football. You never know how this stuff's going to shake out until you finally see at least that first week. And then really you get 3 weeks together. You kind of get a sense of a team. But again, you always pointed out last year, Notre Dame, who'd they lose to? Northern Illinois. Didn't matter. Ended up going to the championship. 2 years ago, they lost to Marshall. Like, this stuff happens more than we like to remember at the beginning of the season. But with that being said, 402-464-5685. We're going to talk plenty Husker football, and we're going to start off with just some of the stats. So again, if you were paying attention, which I'm sure most of you were, Nebraska does win it 20-17 over the Cincinnati Bearcats, which was supposed to be originally a home game for Cincinnati. Money talks to the point to where they're willing to essentially make it a home game for Nebraska. Now, it's not like Cincinnati didn't have the option to travel to Arrowhead Stadium, but you're playing with fire when you're bringing a quote-unquote neutral site game closer to Nebraska's neck of the woods, knowing how these fans travel. And I think Kansas City even was a little bit shocked by the just overwhelming amount of fandom that came from Lincoln, from the Husker fan base. And I shouldn't say Lincoln, just from Nebraska in general. I believe they had to open up the lot like an extra half hour early just to deal with the line that was building up due to all the Husker fans. So for everybody who went, shout out. The place looked awesome. Arrowhead Stadium was packed. It looked like, yeah, it looked as packed as you can get an NFL stadium to look. So shout out to everyone who went there. And then if you're a Cincinnati Bearcat fan, just a tough look. Again, moved it as close to Lincoln as felt like you possibly could for quote unquote neutral site game. But, you know, it's not even a like tongue in cheek way to say this. You maybe could find 50 Bearcat fans out there. Didn't help that if they're wearing red, they just blend right in. But you can even see if they're watching the game on there. They kept zooming in on those like 4 Cincinnati fans, a bunch of young kids, and they kept showing them throughout the entire game because there wasn't a whole lot to show. So those kids got all the spotlight because there was not a whole lot else out there. Of course, you had Travis Kelce, who they were showing his reaction from time to time as well. And then everybody knows Taylor Swift was in the mix as well, so they threw on there. But there's not a lot of Cincinnati Bearcat fans, so you couldn't really show their reactions throughout the broadcast. But let's go through the stats. So the final score, 20-17, as I said. First downs, Nebraska wins that one. Just overall more time of possession. Nebraska did do a good job there. They had 23 first downs to Cincinnati 16. Third down conversion rate, not bad for Nebraska either. I think, again, in hindsight, most people, just because it was close, maybe feel like this game was ugly at times. And surely on the defense, we'll get to that. But the offense, I thought it was a good showing for Dylan Raiola. We didn't see the deep threat. You know, maybe we can sit here and argue we want a someone over the top I've had years prior. But at the same time, if that's what Cincinnati wants to give you is a bunch of dink and dunk routes underneath, then that's what you got to take. It's kind of similar to what Iowa does. We'll just lull you to sleep. And the moment you think you're doing too little, you'll do too much and turn it over. Dylan Raiola didn't do that, the entire game. He did have one throw where it wasn't a deep ball, just a try. I believe it was a 4th down conversion. He was looking it off, looked back to the cross field, tries to hit a check down, and almost a pick six. Would have grabbed onto it. But that was about the only bad throw I really saw. So again, first downs, 23. A third down conversion rate, 10 for 18, over 50%. And Cincinnati, despite what they're doing on the ground, their third down conversion rate was actually only 3 in 10. Fourth downs, we were 1 for 2. Cincinnati, 2 for 2 on there. Total yards, Nebraska wins by about 100, 356 to Cincinnati's 271. Passing, pretty much all passing. I shouldn't say that. Not all passing, but significantly more passing from Nebraska. 243 yards through the air. Cincinnati, as great as Sorsby was at down the stretch, who felt like he was going to break the game open for the Bearcats, not due to his passing, but due to his legs. Passing was not great at all for him throughout the entire night. So, he looked really good at times, but at the end of the day, you see there's parts of Dylan Raiola's game of why we appreciate it so much, because Cincinnati, as good as he can be on the ground, they're forced to play a certain kind of style because he is not necessarily the greatest when it comes to dropping back in the pocket and letting it rip. Because again, we'll get to the defensive line. It's not like we're going to get a ton of pressure on him. It's not like we're making him uncomfortable. It's not like we were squashing the run game to really force those guys into some third and longs where he's got to drop back and throw it. It's kind of just their play style. And when they are forced to kind of drop back and throw it, doesn't really break too well for Sorsby. So, like I said, in that game, 69 total yards through the air, and he was 13 for 25. Average yards per pass was low as well, 2.8. Interceptions, of course, he threw one. Dylan Raiola, 0. Had a chance to throw one, saved himself there. Rushing, this is where Cincinnati takes it away with less carries on top of that as well. So, Nebraska, with 35 carries, we did rack up 113 yards. Emmett Johnson, obviously the lead back. He does break over 100 yards, 108 total yards, and we were averaging about 3.2 yards per rush. Backups in that game, not their best showcase. Between Nelson or Mosey, both of those guys really didn't get a ton of reps, so I'm not going to be super critical, but on the limited reps they did get, it was, back to the line of scrimmage at best. Now, those guys are inexperienced, and I hope it's just that, because I think you're starting to see a little bit of the red flag that was the running back room, and we're really understanding that depth drop off seems to be pretty significant. Because when Emmett Johnson's in there, one thing we can check off the list, not just talk in the offseason from Emmett Johnson, that guy looks legit. If we have an offensive line that can block for him throughout the season, I know it was, I want to say Boston College there. We'll talk about them later. I know it's Cincinnati, not your toughest competition. It's not Michigan by any means, but he showed some serious explosiveness. He's a good receiving back as well. I know he dropped one pass, but for the most part, he gets it done through the air as well as on the ground. And if he can stay healthy, he can be the bell cow all season long, because I just think that drop off is too steep to really trust anyone else back there for a ton of reps, game in, game out. As the season goes on, maybe somebody breaks out, Ives gets more healthy, maybe we can have that conversation again. But right now, it's Emmett Johnson above and away. There was a noticeable difference when it was anybody else but Johnson in the backfield. And on top of that, pass protection from him, pretty good as well. I know it's something that gets lost a little bit. You're not always looking at the running back when he is in that pass pro, but I thought he was just all around solid. You can make an argument the best player on Nebraska's team in that game versus Cincinnati, most consistent at the very least. But let's move on here. So again, like I said, Emmett Johnson, your lead back for that one, 25 carries, 108 total yards. Everybody else racks up for 10 yards to rack up a measly 5 more yards. So to put that in perspective, again, Emmett Johnson had 25 carries for 108. Everybody else had 10 more carries, and they get 5 yards out of that. So Emmett Johnson, steep drop off after him. I think we can notice that. Penalties, Nebraska, not too bad. 3 for 27, and then Cincinnati 4 for 20. Turnovers, we already kind of talked about it for a little bit there. Nebraska comes to the game clean. No turnovers. Cincinnati did have 2. Of course, we mentioned the interception from Sorsby all the way at the very end of the game there. Shout out to Hartzog he got a penalty on the play prior as well, and he ends up making the interception to go ahead and close that thing out. Of course, Nebraska has to take a quick knee, but essentially ices the game for Nebraska. And he actually was one who picked up that penalty prior. So it's nice to see him come back. And then the fumble lost. I can't remember who the receiver was for Cincinnati. Just a really good hit by Nebraska's defense. Probably the best moment for that linebacker core all night was forcing that interception. So, and I believe that was Shavers that did that as well. So really good hit there. Jarred it loose. There's no question to me that we definitely got the stop there. They gifted Cincinnati a first down after clearly marking it short, and then the refs does the classic thing where he walks up to the ball. It looks short, And instead of taking a second to measure, he just kind of shuffles his feet up a little bit as he's like walking towards the spot. He takes a angle and then just waves it forward before anyone gets another look. I don't know what that is. Why? Maybe just bad eyes, but it was pretty clearly off. And why they didn't just stop to take a look at it, whatever. They didn't do it, but didn't matter. Nebraska forces the fumble soon after on that. And like I said, that was probably the best moment for the defense all night. Otherwise, we'll do the negatives first here, so I don't have to sound too negative before we get to the rest of college football, and then we can talk about the positives. The negatives are, I don't have to say it, everyone's number one thing. That defensive front was worrisome. You were getting gashed pretty good, pretty early, and at times when it felt like everyone was fundamentally okay, it just took one shake from Sorsby to get around. I just got to finish on a lot of those pressures. Like when we were getting pressure, it just our inability to finish as well was really noticeable. It doesn't do a whole lot of good if we can get past. If you can finally make your rush, you can get past that left tackle. If you're pulling a stunt, find a way, break through inside. If you're just gonna take one little hezzy or one little pump, one shake, and then Sorsby's out of the pocket for another 15 yards. It's a tough thing to practice. It's just one of those things where you got to be really disciplined and not just completely fly downfield and really find ways to break down. Because we're dealing with a guy like Sorsby in Cincinnati, who we went through it before with the stats. Like, that's his MO. He's not going to threaten you a whole lot with the pass. I mean, when you give him pressure, it almost gives him the green light just to go ahead and run, scramble, use his legs. Probably enjoys that even more. Maybe even feels more comfortable scrambling than he does just sitting back in the pocket, airing it out. Just got to break down and finish a lot of those plays and not over pursue. And a few times, it's easier said than done. You're going for the pass rush, you get too far upfield, and just makes a really big lane for that quarterback to run up in. And then you're kind of putting everybody else in the back end in a tough spot, because yes, they got a gap, but it's not much of a gap. They got a whole alley. They got a guard now because you went way too far upfield. And when you're dealing with a guy like Sorsby, you give him, a sliver of green space, he's going to find it. If you're going to give him an alleyway, well, he's going to find that in at least 20 yards, which he did throughout the entire night. So that's problem number one. On the bright side, if we stop the run, we talked about it, I think, being one of the best rooms on all of Nebraska football was that DB room, that corner room. Really, you can throw some of the safeties in there as well. I mean, between Buford, Hartzog, you got Wright in there who can come in and make plays. Singleton, you got a lot of different guys in there with veteran experience, and they kind of showed that. Again, I threw out Hartzog. He gets the game-winning pick, but even guys like Singleton just kind of rock solid throughout the entire game. And maybe that's part of why Sorsby was 13 for 25. It's easy to say Sorsby isn't very good in terms of when it comes to just dropping back and passing it, but a lot of that goes to the credit of those DBs that Nebraska's had. And I don't think we're too surprised by that. A lot of people thought that would be one of the stronger rooms just due to the depth and amount of starts you have throughout that room. So you feel good about that. It's just that linebacker room and that defensive front. Be nice if we had an all 22. We could see it a little bit better, but I mean, it just felt like both parties were at fault there. Like I said, whether it's either that defense front just over pursuing a little bit too much, or the linebackers, if the guys were where they needed to be, just collapsing that pocket slowly, and the linebackers were unable to follow the lanes and do their part of the job. And when you get a mobile quarterback, I understand it's a little bit hard, but we're gonna get to. Thank goodness, we don't have Illinois on the schedule. I know it was Western Illinois, but those guys crushed Western Illinois, and Luke Allmeyer didn't even have to use his legs in that one. He looks like just a very polished passer, Illinois' quarterback, in Allmeyer. But the thing that scared me was he didn't really have to use his legs at all in that one. So his game just looks like it's grown a lot. And again, some of his guys were pretty open, but still he is throwing it on an absolute line. Didn't have to use his legs. But we remember last year when we did play Illinois, he just killed us with his legs. The entire time we didn't know how to stop Illinois' offense. They just had us guessing the entire time. And in a way, that's what the Cincinnati game felt like on defense was, or do we just don't know what defense front's called? Do we put a spy on Sorsby? Because right now we're really struggling. And obviously, I don't think I ever saw us put a spy over Sorsby, which is a little bit surprising because he was, at one point, I wasn't surprised they just started dialing up more QB runs and just getting ready to roll with it because it was getting that just successful in terms of the average yards per carry they were getting with him. But, you know, it was John Butler, first time around as the defensive coordinator for Nebraska, first game anyways. I didn't see a whole lot of changes there. And if someone did, you know, feel free to text them 402-464-5685. We'll break it down, but didn't see a whole lot of answers on Sorsby. And when we got to the end of the game, I don't think we ever found one. I think we just kind of got lucky that Sorsby really craved the moment and wanted the win. And, you know, he puts a little bit more heat on that ball. It's still going to be a really tough catch because Hartzog was well within the area to go ahead and make a play on that. But I think he just wanted a little bit too much, though. And then, of course, we all know how it went. It's just short, and Hartzog gets the interception. But, you know, up until that point, we didn't really stop him. The passing game was never something he was killing us with. It was just his legs. And at that point in the game, they didn't need to go ahead and do that just yet. You know, I get the idea of it. Let's take a pass here. We'll pick up some yards. And worst case scenario, if it's incomplete, we just, you know, we won't throw it towards the middle. We'll throw it, you know, to the outside. So worst case scenario, if I oversell it if I overthrow it, so if it gets tipped out, it's going out of bounds. The problem was, like, if you're going to go with that, it's got to be overthrown no matter what, because underthrown is the last thing you want to possibly do. And that's unfortunate for what happened for Cincinnati. You know, I don't hate the call, but again, when you're in those situations, you know, I'm no genius, but, you know, Barry Thompson will tell you the same thing. QB coach, listen to enough. Like, if you're, unless he's elite and you really trust that guy, like, you know, going over the middle, it's a tough ask because, again, even if it's a good throw, wide receiver, one finger, if he just slips up a little bit there, tips it up in the air, it's an easy pick. Throw it to the outside. Worst thing to do, just don't underthrow, throw it over, if anything, and he underthrew it. And that was the game. But realistically, the drive before that and that drive that they were on, again, just zero answer for how to stop Sorsby every time he started to break out and run. You know, maybe I can understand a little bit why we didn't have the spy in there at the end because we're just waiting, you know, for everyone drop back in coverage, and we're okay with letting Sorsby, you know, run up a little bit, 10, 15 yards. But like I said, I never saw one in there. Maybe I could be a little bit wrong on that, but you could definitely tell that the defense, in my opinion, never fully found an answer to the end. And I'm sure it's an answer that they're going to find in hindsight, you know, in film, and trying to figure out where guys were breaking down as often as they were, and their inability to really corral their Cincinnati's quarterback anytime he decided to take off and watch. Let's see. Shout out to Isaac. Great show. Watching all the games yesterday. I'd say we were in pretty good shape. Emmett is as good as any back. I watched defense was the name of the game across the board for most team. Our offense will hit it our stride. Fully agree there. We'll have to improve for Michigan. All right. Kind words from Isaac. And that's kind of the same sentiment that I'm in. And I'm curious. I think that's where most Husker football fans are in. Basically, his consensus and my consensus, it's really not too far off. Emmett Johnson, great player. Nebraska's ability to stop the run, shaky. Nebraska's backs, their corners, their safeties, excellent. Dylan Raiola, promising. I mean, that's pretty much where we're at. And then the final point, we got to get much better if we're going to beat Michigan. You know, because now we get, I believe, it's Akron first, then Houston Christian. Here's 2 games to tune up. And in those 2 games to tune up, you know, it's going to come down to practices a lot. I mean, these games are great and all, but they don't, you just have a really hard time evaluating programs like this. And we were having I can't remember who I was having it with, but we had this on air before. And in this new era of college football, and I shouldn't even say new era, but the tune-up games are just bad. I mean, they're bad. They're really bad ways to figure out where your program is. And also just a accident waiting to happen. We'll play Akron, we'll play Houston Christian. And the only way we find out anything is if we lose. If we win those games, good, as expected. But, I mean, there's just not a ton of value in it. It's preseason after you played a regular season game, because it feels like preseason being a little bit more sense, but you go play Cincinnati and then you go play two nobodies. And I understand, like, all these schools do this. This is the norm. It's not like Nebraska's the odd man out, but it does suck for college football and for the fan base and for everybody who does like to enjoy watching good college football. Like, such a short season to get these crappy games that, yeah, they don't do anything. As long as you don't lose, great. Nobody cares and no one's going to really talk about it. And that's, 2 weeks. Now it's Husker football and it's college football. So I'm going to watch. I watched USC versus Missouri State. And that was the sicko game. I think it was like 73-10 or 73-7. And I still watched it. That's how great of a product college football is. So, while I say I'm not a super big fan of like how college football is just scheduled in terms of how all these schools we got to schedule just like 2 pointless games every year. And here you go, Buffalo. Here you go, Fordham, Mercer. Here's X amount of dollars. Thanks for playing us. If you want to schedule North Dakota, that's a little bit different. There's schools like North Dakota, as they pushed Kansas State yesterday, where even if you got to cut them a check, like, that's a good team. Like, you're going to play a good team, and they're going to do things that even the best, Power 4 teams don't do. Now, on paper, they might not be as good, in terms of like what they have in athleticism, but like technique-wise, you're going to learn a thing or two. And like that's North Dakota year in, year out. And we'll get to that game versus Kansas State. But, when you play an Akron, Houston Christian, or like I said, with USC and Missouri State, like, I think that was Missouri State's like first game. What does USC get out of any of that other than confidence? And, like I said, they scored over 70 points. So they looked phenomenal. I don't know how good they are because, again, it's such a bad team in terms of what they're expected to be. And again, like I said, I think it was their first year at the Power 4 or FBS level. So next, not Power 4, but FBS level. So, it should look like that in a way. And you should be excited if you're a USC fan, but at the same time, it's like, we'll really see what that means when we get to some games that actually mean something. Let's see here. One more text and we got through at the break here. Have you talked about, let's see, White at Florida State performance? No, we're going to talk about that. We are going to definitely talk about Tony White, defensive coordinator, Florida State, and how they absolutely kicked up on Alabama and DeBoer's Crimson Tide. That's where we're going next. Not that game in particular, but all across college football. That one stuck out. Florida State's defense looked pretty good. I think they figured something out there. Smart move getting Tony White. There's a reason why we wanted to keep him. And even when you left, I was like, we'll see what they can do there at Florida State. I was optimistic, but Tony White's a good coach. I think we found that out. All right, we do got to throw it to break, though. I'm already over the clock here. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk more college football. Here's Arens on the ones and twos. Don't go anywhere. Like I said, you guys are always welcome to join in. I'll talk to you on the other side.
Saturday. Eagle Raceway is open for a full season of dirt track racing action every Saturday night. Don't miss the epic battles on the high banks of Eagle Raceway each Saturday between the Nebraska Septic Sprint Cars, Nebraska Lottery Modifieds, Avid Realty Sport Mods, Valentino's Hobby Stocks, and A1 Iron Stock Cars. Let's go racing. Eagle Raceway, just 10 miles east of Lincoln on O Street. Check out the full schedule at eagleraceway.com.
Rick Heyman here from Starter Heyman Jewelers. I want to personally thank our great customers for voting us once again the best of Lincoln. At the same time, we're celebrating our 120th year in business in the great state of Nebraska. Visit us at South Point, Grand Island, and the Outlet in downtown Lincoln. Visit us today at starterheyman.com.
Starter Heyman Jewelers.
Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
Give your furnace a break with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows. Heartland of Nebraska Windows offers a free estimate, full window replacements, all vinyl triple pane windows, and a lifetime warranty of everything, while still keeping their prices affordable. Sounds too good to be true, right? Heartland of Nebraska Windows is locally and family owned with their own team of installers. Give the window experts at Heartland of Nebraska Windows a call today at 402-430-3852 or visit them online at heartlandofnebraskawindows.com. Elevate your home or business with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows today.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
MWR is dedicated to building attractive, affordable steel buildings that exceed your expectations. From commercial to residential to agriculture storage, steel buildings are cost-effective, attractive, and versatile. Plus, they're a lasting investment and an ideal choice. MWR uses Sentinel Building Systems out of Albion and can service you all over the state and region. If you have interest in a steel building, post-frame building, or fencing, give MWR a call today at 402-980-5273 or go to mwrbuildingandfence.com. M Suits Clothiers, Lincoln's favorite men's store, is having their end-of-season clearance sale. End-of-season clearance is going on now with up to 75% off. Stop in now for the best selection on polos, sport shirts, suits, sport coats, dress pants, and dress shirts. Suits as low as $299, sport coats starting at $199, dress shirts as low as $69, and polos starting at $49. M Suits Clothiers is located 1 block south of 56th and Pine Lake Road. M Suits Clothiers, your menswear store.
Are you tired of living in pain? At Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery, they make it simple. From head to toe, spine to extremities, they've got you covered. Their multi-specialty team of experts in orthopedic surgery, plastic surgery, podiatry, physical therapy, and occupational therapy all work under one roof to get you back to living life pain-free. Don't wait another day. Visit prairie-ortho.com today or call them at 402-489-4700. Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery, where healing begins.
93.7 The Ticket is your home for every Kansas City Royals baseball game. Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, and the rest of the Royals attempt to make the postseason for the second season in a row. And you can hear all the action on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Your home for Kansas City Royals baseball.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and must wait 30 days after winning a prize to participate in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the KNTK Studios, 1040 O Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contests, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back in. Harrison Arns, the ones and twos. As always, comes Sunday. We're going to keep talking college football here, and only college football. But don't worry, next week, this upcoming week, depending on where you start your week, but NFL, Thursday, Cowboys, Eagles. So we'll get to talk more NFL as well, not just off-the-field stuff, live-action stuff. Because, I'm excited to see it, especially now, on a quick side tangent, NFC North. And I talk about the NFC North a lot because for everyone who hasn't heard it for the millionth time, and sorry if it is the millionth time, as a Bears fan, the Micah Parsons trade, just insanity. Like the NFC North in terms of like coaches, and now that the Lions have like got their stuff together, just like a very tough division to be in. Everyone's got their stuff buttoned up in there. And when Dan Campbell's done with the Lions, like now that those guys are year in, year out, and of course Vikings, it's, everyone's like, oh boy, these guys are done. Here comes Sam Darnold. And it's like, oh yeah, it's an O'Connell team. He just knows how to get it done. Oh yeah, it's a LaFleur team. He just knows how to get it done. Love goes down. We got Willis. They'll figure it out. And then they do. Very tough division to be a part of. Packers, Micah Parsons, depending on how good Love does, could be scary. All right. We'll talk more NFL as we get closer to that stuff. Like I said, Thursday Night Football, Cowboys, Eagles, 7:20 Central Time, Thursday, September 4th. Back to college football, though. We did have Texter, kind of shout out to Florida State. Everyone missed it. Alabama is not Alabama anymore. It is, the board is going to be on that hot seat maybe now already, maybe sooner than later. But, last year, I think the mask was already kind of dropped. Like, okay, this is a good team, good program. There's still that Saban culture there. We saw when we fired Bo Pelini, right? Mike Riley comes in. They go like, 7-0. And then all of a sudden, you kind of start to see the culture erode away. And it's like, okay, there's a difference here. We're starting to see it. It takes a little bit of time to see that difference. Not fair for DeBoer. Like I don't know if you're probably never going to match Saban, but it just looks that much worse because you are trying to match Saban. Like unless the bar there is like undefeated college football playoffs, 1-2 losses a season at most, you beat Georgia, you take care. If you lose to Georgia, you make sure you win the rematch when you get it. You don't lose to teams like Vanderbilt ever. You always beat up on Auburn. Those games aren't close. You beat up on just literally anybody but Georgia, and that's kind of who Alabama's been. And, you lose to Florida State. Last year, Florida State was a team that completely found itself lost, and nobody was really sure how good they're going to be this year. They get Castellanos, absolute baller, phenomenal. He was at Boston College. We didn't play him. I don't believe I'm almost positive we didn't play him in the bowl game, but he was on that roster last year. But I don't think he played in that one, the Bad Boys Mowers Bowl. But he played phenomenal. Alabama they look different. We'll go through the stats real quick. Simpson for Alabama, he threw for 254 yards, not necessarily terrible. There, like I was saying, Castellanos, he was good, 152, but the real thing that he was doing was on the ground. 16 carries, 78 yards, and a touchdown. And the entire team for the Seminoles, just really good job running the ball throughout the entire thing. And you'll see that. Rushing yards, Florida State, 236 yards on the ground on 46 carries. They were going to the well a lot for that, but why would you not when you are ripping off 5 yards per rush? Compare that to Alabama, 87 rushing yards on 29 attempts, only good for about 3 yards. The other part about Alabama that's a little bit concerning, 8 penalties for 70 yards. Saban's teams, they were pretty good, disciplined. 8 for 70 is way too much. 4 penalties, 40 yards for Florida State. Turnovers, Florida State, only turnover of the day with 1. Time of possession was actually even, about 30 minutes each apiece. First downs, Florida State only had 2 more. Third down conversion rate, pretty similar. Fourth down conversion rate was a real difference. Alabama, 2 for 5. Florida State, 2 for 2. Alabama kept going for it on fourth down and was getting the door shut on their face. Kills a lot of momentum. Happens once, that hurts. Happens twice, eesh. 3 times, you don't get it on fourth down after going for it. It's tough to bear at times, and it does start to play into the mind. So they win it 31-17, Florida State Seminoles, and it was, second quarter, you're already kind of like, I don't know what's going on with Bama. It was 17-7 by the time halftime came. So, if you're a Crimson Tide fan, you're getting into the third quarter, hoping for some sort of comeback, and you don't really get it. You get 3 points, but they answer with 7 in that third quarter, and then the fourth quarter, you need a huge run, and you don't get it. You get 7, they get 7. That's the game right there. So Alabama starts off the year 0-1. Just like that. This is just not the same Alabama. And I do wonder, I didn't even look at the message boards from Alabama fans yesterday because I'm sure it's just going to be vile things said in there. They're not used to this type of treatment to their program, but they're in a weird spot. They got to figure out how they're going to fill that void that was Nick Saban. And right now, DeBoer is, maybe he can be the guy, but right now he's just not doing it. And I don't know if it's expectations. Maybe it's just more even now. I mean, you look at what the Big Ten did over the weekend, and you wonder with the NCAA versus House settlement, it seems like everything's kind of even now. I wonder if there's any major, court case that changed all that. Just kind of weird how everyone feels a lot more even than they used to be after we had this big legal case where all of a sudden it's illegal to pay players and it doesn't have to be under the table. That's all I'm saying. I mean, it's not evidence, but there's some correlation that's going on is the only thing I'm trying to point out. Like, why is it now that all these teams feel closer than they ever used to be? Feels like maybe because some universities were paying and some universities weren't. Some universities were paying way too much, and now that all this stuff has to be on the level surface, it's kind of harder to create huge advantages like we've seen in the past. I mean, maybe just a thought, but you are seeing a lot more balance than you used to, which is good for college football in my mind. Let's talk about some other games. Texas, Ohio State. That was the big one. That was the one that everybody wanted to watch, that probably had their eyes on, that even the casuals of college football probably watched that one. It was not good. It was not a good game to watch. Unfortunately, for anybody who was super excited about a QB battle, it was not a battle at all between the QBs. It was a good defensive battle. So, unfortunately for the Texas Longhorns, 14-7, Ohio State wins it. Julian saying he was actually the better quarterback probably in that one. Just calm, composed. He did exactly what I thought he was going to do, which was smart. It was smart not to do anything extra, but me and Tristan Gomez talked about this last week, kind of heading into college football weekend. One, I think the message from Ryan Day to saying was, and I was listening to Joel Ermeyer, they kind of talked about this too, was, let's just don't think about, I need to go win the big game on Saturday. Think about my first drive. Let me get 2 first downs. Okay, that's all I got to do. Let's just get 2 first downs. All right. We didn't get the first down. Like, we can punt here, but at least we can play field position because they got 2 first downs. We can play field position here. Just gotta find a way to win the game by 1 point. Like, I'm not looking for stats. I'm not looking for yards. I'm looking for a way to get just a first down at a time here and not make any mistakes. We'll punt the ball. We're not gonna turn it over. Kind of exactly what he did throughout the game. Just not taking a ton of risk. He did have some good throws in there when he needed to, but 13 for 20. Not beautiful, not ugly, above 50%. You'll take that. He threw for a touchdown. You compare that to Manning, 17 for 30, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. And the problem for Manning was, the hype around him was so much already. And he did have a couple starts. Again, not versus Ohio State, but he had some experience. It's not like he was his first start ever out there. And he's just got an insane amount of hype on him. So when you're part of that Manning, really, you can make an argument, for that first dynasty family in the era of football. Could be wrong on that. Only 26. So if you got a counter argument, go ahead and tell me with a grain of salt. But I think that just expectations for Manning to be perfect against a really good Ohio State team who was used to Texas. It's not like Ohio State didn't just get done playing Texas not too long ago, and a lot of those players for Ohio State that beat Texas were still on that roster. And they know how Sarkisian and that squad likes to operate. Just because it's a new quarterback doesn't mean the scheme is going to be all that different. Now, there's going to be some new wrinkles to it, but Ohio State was prepared, and Manning had some moments where the moment just got too big. He playing at the horseshoe didn't help. Not saying this guy's a bust, but just for first showing, white expectations can be troublesome. What were we seriously expecting him to do there? A good game is the best we can hope for. I think some people were like, can't wait to watch Manning on, Saturday. He's going to have 350 yards and 2 touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. The kid is, he's still relatively young. That's a huge ask. It's on the road. I think he needed to be in the same mindset of saying. And not to say that he wasn't, but it just didn't feel like it. Like, who cares about everything else? Like, let's just get 2 first downs. Let's not try to go win the ball game on this first drive. Let's just get 2 first downs and play field position. Like, we know Ohio State's a very good team. We're not going to put these guys away in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. Probably going to come down to the fourth. And to be fair, it still did come down to the fourth, but Julian Samuels just game managing out there, and then it felt like Texas early was trying to make some plays, and I'll let him into trouble, and that was kind of the game right there. Also, the other thing that's going to kill you, we've talked about it already twice. Alabama did it. So did Texas. 4th down conversions, 1 for 5. 1 for 5 in a 1-score game. There is nothing wrong with punting, and there is nothing wrong with kicking the field goal, especially when you have just been stonewalled. You think when they were like 1 for 3 on 4th down conversions, when they were going for the, that 5th one, they would let's just punt. Let's just take the field goal. Now, the last one, you can understand some of them because you just have to due to needing the 7 points. But I saw this a lot over the weekend. We went a too hard switch over with the analytics. It feels like everybody's just always going for it on 4th down. And again, you go to Texas, 1 for 5, 4th down conversions. Some of those happen at the end there. Due to the limit, you just need to go find 7 points, but saw that a lot. Alabama did it. The board did it a lot, and it cost them, I thought, big time in field position. Texas did it over and over and over and just never got it outside of the one time. Not a great, taking a field goal and punting it. There is a reason why people used to do that in the past. It feels like we've switched a little bit over into the analytics. Let's see. Bill and Bennett, how about Utah taking a win from UCLA and LA? We'll talk about that. UCLA got waxed. I was not expecting. I know Utah, I thought was a good team heading in. I didn't look at that game a whole lot. I wouldn't be surprised if the money line maybe even had UCLA not favored by a whole lot. Could even have Utah. I would be a little surprised by that, but they got waxed. Wasn't even close. We're already against the clock here, so we got to throw it to break. But we'll talk about some more college football games. We still haven't gotten to Kansas State, North Dakota. Of course, we got UCLA that we can talk about, USC, which we won't talk about very much at all. There's a lot of games. And we do got Jeff and Nicole Essing coming up, and I'm sure Jeff will talk some football as well. So don't go anywhere. I got one more segment on the other side. Harrison Arens going solo for one more segment. Talk to you guys in just a little bit.
A lot of businesses say they're family focused, but when tough situations in life arise, the business wants anything but your best interests. James Enterprise Incorporated is hiring, and they will always treat their employees like family, just as they do their customers. James Enterprise Incorporated is hiring Class A and B CDL drivers, a shop tech, and a diesel mechanic. If you're looking for a career with a company that goes above and beyond to value you and your family, apply today at jamesenterpriseinc.com or call 402-432-6740.
Rico here with HIS Auto Care at 70th and Van Dorn, letting you know HIS is a great place to bring your vehicle for service. With superior service bumper to bumper, we'll treat your vehicle like it's your mother's. It doesn't get any better than that. So call 402-488-8934 and HIS Auto will make you glad you did. 5% off, mention this ad, and for sure your mother will be proud you called. 402-488-8934, HIS Auto Care, 70th and Van Dorn. God bless you.
Looking for a financial partner that truly makes a difference? Modern Woodman is a member-owned fraternal financial services organization. We can help you plan for all stages of life, from protection to saving to retirement. We also offer member benefits, social activities, and volunteer opportunities to help your family and community.
I'm Sean Erickson, your Modern Woodman representative in Lincoln. Call me at 402-483-6515 to start the conversation.
Modern Woodman of America, touching lives, securing futures.
Are you tired of living in pain? At Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery, they make it simple. From head to toe, spine to extremities, they've got you covered. Their multi-specialty team of experts in orthopedic surgery, plastic surgery, podiatry, physical therapy, and occupational therapy all work under one roof to get you back to living life pain-free. Don't wait another day. Visit prairie-ortho.com today or call them at 402-489-4700. Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery, where healing begins.
When it comes to concrete, Stevens & Smith Construction doesn't stall. They go for the takedown. As Nebraska's full-service concrete contractor, they stay in bounds, hold inside position, and never forfeit quality. Whether it's foundations, flat work, or concrete coatings, they elevate performance and pin down results that win every time. Stevenson Smith Construction is a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket. Because when it's time to wrestle with concrete, Stevenson Smith Construction slams expectations.
Hi, I'm Eli Barnes, Assistant Vice President at Midwest Bank at the 70th and Pioneers and 27th Jamie Lane locations. I love working with families and small businesses right here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Banking shouldn't be complicated, and that's why we make it personal. Whether it's opening your child's first account or securing a loan for your next big step, I'm here to help. Stop in today and say hello. I'd love to meet you. Your community, your bank, Midwest Bank, member FDIC.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
If the power is out, keep your fridge and freezer closed. Perishable food lasts 4 hours in the fridge, and frozen food lasts up to 2 days if it stays below 40 degrees. See more tips at les.com/safety.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Call Liberty Law Group and find out how we can help get you the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group. Trial attorneys you can trust.
Mike, I've been thinking our house could really use a makeover. How about new siding?
I've been thinking the same thing. Have you heard of James Hardy?
Yes! Sarah down the street had Roofing Service Company install James Hardy siding on their home, and they love it.
Roofing Service Company does have great reviews.
They took her through the design process and made everything super easy.
Roofing Service Company offers expert design and installation. Couple that with James Hardy's durable products and variety of colors, you and your family will love your exterior remodel. Just visit roofingservicecompany.com. That's roofingservicecompany.com.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket, and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions. Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back in. Final segment. Harrison Arens going solo. Got maybe about 2 minutes left here before we get over to Fitness Fanatics. We got Jeff and Nicole Essing coming up next. You guys are always welcome to join in. 402-464-5685. And I do think Jeff Essing wants to talk a lot of football on the other side as well. So you guys can get more college football stuff in there. But before we do so, I still got a few more minutes left. Let's get through one more game. Another Big Ten opponent. This one, we talked a lot of Big Ten. This one was not a great showing for the Big Ten. UCLA. Not a good start for Deshaun Foster and company. UCLA loses to Utah by a whopping score 43-10, and it just never felt, unfortunately, really close to begin with. So breaking it down real quick, Utah rattled off 13 in the first quarter, then 10 in the second quarter. So it was already 23-7 heading into half. And then they rack up 20 more points in the second half, and UCLA only gets a field goal after. You know, as far as we'll go by some of these player stats here, Nico Amaleva, he was 11 for 22, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. So about 50% completion rating, not a great showcase for his first time around. Dampler, Utah's quarterback, 21 for 25, 2 touchdowns. And it was just all Utah. Third down conversions, 14 for 16 for Utah. UCLA, Wolfeld 2 for 11. Passing yards, Utah damn near 500 to exit the game. UCLA 222. Rushing yards on the ground, Utah almost racks up 300 to 87. And then UCLA gets 84. So I don't know what's more telling. Either the Utah are a dominant powerhouse or UCLA is a lot worse than we anticipated. And the big thing that I was high on with UCLA last year, and I did talk about it was a big fan of Eric Bieniemy. And I think you saw that as he was the offensive coordinator when they played Nebraska at home last year, was UCLA was just tearing us apart. And it wasn't one of those things where it looked like better athletes, just felt like our defense was out there guessing the entire time. And that offense was finely tuned. The defense was always a little bit problematic. And unfortunately, over the course of the offseason, didn't look like that got patched up too much. And even worse, it would be more of a sign to tell us things go on. Did the offense even take a step back despite maybe getting an upgrade at quarterback? So plenty more college football games. I didn't even get to Kansas State, North Dakota. That one was interesting as well. You know, Kansas State, who we can call it Dublin curse. It almost went into full effect. We saw it last year with Florida State. They go to Dublin, they lose to Georgia Tech in a dramatic upset after being a top 10 opponent. And then they come back home and then they lose to, I think it was Boston College game 2. Kansas State almost pulled the loss to Iowa State and then almost came back home and then pulled off another loss to North Dakota State. But luckily, Avery Johnson was able to leave a final drive for a comeback win. With that being said, that's all the time we got. I know we got some more text in there, but we don't got too much time left. So Fitness Fanatics up next. Me, Jeff Essing, Nicole Essing. We'll talk about it a bit more. So don't go anywhere just yet. Ticket weekends here on a Sunday, August 31st. We'll talk to you guys in just a little bit.